didn't transition because I always knew. I transitioned because I had been following a signal my whole life that led me through the twists and turns of the soul labyrinth, all the way down to lossless presence. And so I'm going to dive deeper into the trans experience and actually bring in oscillatory mechanics and the nature of consciousness and presence. So for me, I was someone who had found my ex early. I wanted to create a family and do whatever I could to make that happen. And so I went to law school when I never wanted to. And I had actually played soccer, even played semi pro indoor for the longest time, almost as if trying to prove something to the people around me, almost as if trying to put myself in a box for those who I thought I loved, and I thought that love was performance, coercion, control, and some conditional love loop where if you are a certain way, if you are a certain person, then you can receive that success and love. Identity to me wasn't when you feel yourself in the lossless rhythm of presence. And so you could say that my whole life I had been sort of suffocating and looking for those moments of when I really, really felt real. And so, what I'm here to say is that it's not that I put on a costume, like some people might say in this more aggressive space that we have going on now. That I took it off. And it's not just that I took it off, I removed the perceptual delay from my consciousness. Do you hear it? I cleared the perturbations of the interface of my human experience. What am I talking about? I'm talking about that most people are inside Plato's cave. In other words, they are delayed. They are distorting reality. They are distorting reality through this stained glass lens and I know my nails are all chipped. I gotta do them. But they're distorting reality through this stained glass lens of, delay, which is essentially I'm viewing the world through concept, idea, symbolic recursion, and distortion and delay as taught to me by my family and society as towards what reality was. We never learned that reality was a rhythmic entrainment system where presence is a mechanical process that mirrors all the other oscillatory processes in this reality. And most importantly, that soul, each of our souls has an individuated topological geometry, you can say. In other words, it has like a way of expressing itself that's unique to our oscillatory systems. Everything is oscillatory, as is our consciousness. I'm here to say that consciousness is also oscillatory. So when I was younger, I was following this signal that was, and again, I grew up in a very repressed and emotionally avoidant / narcissistic family. So, and again, you can say these are people who don't like to talk about the vulnerability of soul, and that identity is based off a scaffolding of famous people in TV and movies, and these sort of not rhythmically entrained things, not the things that make you feel like you are you and real because you are here in this moment without distortion or delay. Do you hear it? So over time, I would have these experiences. And it wasn't like I was thinking, oh, I secretly want to buy a dress. It took me a long time to even buy a dress. And so, in other words, I had found this signal that you could describe. I had a vision one time that told me, you have a wellspring of love inside you. And as long as you use that, you don't need to know the path. So that allowed someone like me who had been searching for the signal my whole life to bind on to, you could say, an original version of faith, to say, every time I follow this signal, it's the only thing that doesn't lie to me. In other words, everyone else seems to be playing some game of recursive delay based off of some sort of conceptual scaffolding that actually separates them from reality and makes unnecessary comparisons and standardizations. And the way they think about themselves is based in money and status and identity, based in culture, the cultural matrix and cultural regurgitations, rather than the things that come most naturally to them within the rhythm of their presence. Presence, again, being a mechanical process. How does does that work? It binds to the topological geometry of your soul. And when you and the field of reality are in rhythm, are in sync, guess how you figure it out? Not by map, not by math, not by looking to someone else and saying, am I really here? But looking directly into your own experience and saying, I feel more real than ever. I don't feel delay. I don't feel things bursting into my mind telling me I need to, be all frictiony with reality and act in ways that are going to appease society or other people, rather than the thing that comes to me most naturally within the felt presence of my being. And so over time, I'd be in the right spaces, wearing the right clothing, talking to the right people, expressing myself and noticing this click inside me. And when it clicked, I'm like, wow, it's this like softness. And in a way, my repressed brain, knowing that my family would abandon anyone who was trans, and they literally said that, probably said like, well, even though I'm buying like, girl holographic pants for Burning Man or tights or whatever, they're not really girls. They're just like my style, And over time that developed and like got closer and closer. And what happened was, it wasn't that I was binding a concept to a concept saying, yeah, after I watched those movies and reviewed those books and talked to those few people, that sounds like me. No, I was engaging with a signal of frequency, of binding myself to the frequency of reality using my most natural, lossless, rhythmic presence. And so in my path, it led me down this softening journey of wearing clothes that made me feel like me. I would even change. I was an attorney for a while and I changed my clothes after court. I would bring alternative clothes to change into after court immediately, because I could not handle it. Why? Because it stifles my person. Why? Because when I feel like that, I'm trying to give my sovereignty to reality. And it feels like, like I can't, like, I'm not free flowing. I'm not present in a way that changes the nature of my consciousness. And that's what I'm here to say. I removed the delay and distortion from my consciousness. And this is not meditation. This is not mindfulness. This is entering into a new mode of consciousness, not new because it mirrors earlier speciation at a higher level of sovereignty, but you could say, for general purposes, a new mode of consciousness that's no longer Plato's cave symbolic recursion, but instead is a losslessly present, incredibly embodied, incredibly real conscious experience that's bound to the rhythmic quality of reality. Reality is oscillatory. The reason that physicists and biologists find decentralized harmony, which is a rhythmic process of phase coherence within a nodal oscillatory field, but basically there's a rhythm to reality, and everywhere else in nature we see things moving into sync. And when you move into sync, knowing that consciousness is the same process, what do you get? Lossless presence. And so, when I say that I'm trans, I'm not saying that I'm trying to explain something to you and say like, please understand me. I'm saying my process was a mechanical process of rhythmic entrainment with my oscillatory functioning in a way that brought me into a state of lossless presence. Not me watching my thoughts, not me noticing that there's a thinker, but me being so rhythmically entrained with the field that there's no delay, that my thoughts, my ideas, my creations, my over 40 singer-songwriter songs come transcursively. I feel it in the right place and time, and when it needs to come out, it will. Because I'm not delaying it. I'm not trying to make it work through friction or stacking concepts or symbols. And for a long time, like I said, I was an attorney. The arguments would just come out. Do you see that? Do you see that? Not that I'm unprepared, but that, through my experience and preparation, when the moment was right, the rhythm hit and I trusted it. And so it's like trusting the rhythm of your person, of your signal, to the point that you are no longer basically bullshitting yourself about yourself or reality. You're not trying to be someone for someone else. You're not trying to fit yourself into a box for your job or for your family or for something else. You're saying, this is how I am in my most lossless presence, in my most natural person. But you know what the funny thing is about this? When you look at biological systems and they, whether it's heart arrhythmia research with spiral formations or spiral galaxies, or like I've mentioned a million times, the fireflies turning on together, or, brainwave synchronization in athletics, It exists in all levels of the cosmos. When you look at that, what is it called? Decentralized harmony. Why haven't human beings experienced that? Well, because here we are making fun of trans people when we don't even realize we're in Plato's cave. We are stuck in a cave where we can't experience reality for what it is. And I think the trans experience is just a key coming along in a natural progression of a phase transition of the fidelity of mind of human consciousness. Because trans people say, hi, identity is not a social construct, identity is not a choice. There's a nodal topological geometry to my person. And when I let the light all the way through, when I stop bullshitting myself about the nature of reality, I feel lossless. And I figured that out through my femininity. I have a lot more videos on this. I have, the sunraytransmission.com. It has math on it, and you don't need math. The math just shows you, hey, we see this in all levels of reality. We see this it's in science and in physics and biology. Decentralized harmony based off of oscillatory phase dynamics. And now just apply it to your consciousness and realize, am I in rhythm? Or does it feel like my mind's always broken temporally from the future and to the past? And I'm thinking about this and that, and I'm never really here in this moment. And then look at the people in your life and wonder, are they just regurgitating semi-authentic things from things they saw in magazines and TVs and movies and stuff like that? And moreover, do they feel losslessly present with you when you're interacting with them? Or are they somewhere in their brain where you can tell they're trying their best to catch moments of presence type of thing, and they're not bad people. It's just that we've been hoodwinked by symbolic recursion for thousands of years, and it's time. You hear all these people talking about awakening. This is the mechanical basis of awakening, and it's always been right under our noses. We don't have to be like, do you have to read all these passages and sit in a monastery for 40 years? No, you just have to listen to the signal. So let me lay this one on you. You have a wellspring of love inside you. As long as you use that, you don't need to know the path. I'm Ember. Thanks for tuning with me.